Good afternoon, friends. This is our next lecture for the CNS. In today's lecture, we are going to start the topic packet fragmentation. Okay, after that, network layer protocol we have to study. In packet fragmentation, most Ethernet segments have their maximum transmission. Okay, and maximum transmission unit MTU fixed to 1500 bytes. Data packets can have more or less packet length depending upon the application. Devices in the transit path also have their hardware and software capabilities, which tell what amount of data that device can handle and what size of packet it can process. Okay, if the data packet size is less than or equals to the size of the packet the transit network can handle, it is processed naturally. If the packet is larger, it is broken into smaller pieces and then forwarded. This is called packet fragmentation. Okay, each fragment contains the same destination and source address and routed through transit path easily. At the receiving end, it is assembled again. If a packet with DF don't fragment bit set to 1 comes to a router which cannot handle the packet because of its length, the packet is dropped. When a packet is received by a router has its MF more fragments bit set to 1. The router then knows that it is a fragmented packet and parts of the original packet is on the way. If packets is fragmented too small, the overhead is increases. If the package is fragmented too large, intermediate routers may not be able to process it and it might get dropped. Network layer protocols. Every computer in a network has an IP address by which it can be uniquely identified an address. An IP address is layer 3, that is network layer logical address. This address may change every time a computer restarts. Okay, a computer can have one IP at one instance of time and another IP at some different time. Clear? Here is the network, here is the address resolution protocol ARP. Okay, while communicating a host, need layer 2 MAC address of the destination machine which belongs to the same broadcast domain or network. A MAC address is physically burned into the network interface card NIC of a machine and it never changes. On the other hand, IP address on the public domain is rarely changed if the NIC is changed in case of some fault. The MAC address also changes this way for layer 2 communication to take place. A mapping between the two is required. This is a address resolution protocol. See the diagram, observe it, what happened. There is 4 PC, they have their IP address and MAC address, right? Network segment is there. When ARP request for 444 IP, then it's given to that, and then when it get the ARP reply DDDD, then and then only the access is happen. To know the MAC address of the remote host on a broadcast domain, a computer wishing to initiate communication sends out an ARP broadcast message asking who has this IP address. Because it is a broadcast, all hosts on the network segment broadcast domain is there receives these packets and process it. ARP packets contains the IP address of destination host the sending host wishes to talk to. When a host receives an ARP packet distinct to it, it replies back with its own MAC address. Okay, once the host gets destination MAC address, it can communicate with remote host using layer 2 link protocol. This MAC to IP mapping is saved into the ARP cache of both sending and receiving host. Next time, if they require to communicate, they can directly refer to their respective ARP cache. Okay, here is the reserve ARP is a mechanism where host knows the MAC address of remote host but requires to know IP address to communicate. Okay, here is the Internet Control Message Protocol ICMP. Internet Control Message Protocol is network diagnosis. ICMP is network diagnosis of error reporting protocol. ICMP belongs to the IP protocol, suits the user IP as a carrier protocol. After constructing ICMP packet, it is encapsulated in IP packet because IP itself is a best effort non-reliable protocol. So in ICMP, okay, any feedback about network is sent back to the originating host. If some error in the network occurs, it is reported by means of ICMP. ICMP contains dozens of diagnostics and error reporting messages. Okay, error control message protocol echo and ICMP echo reply are the most commonly used ICMP messages to check the reachability of end-to-end host. When a host receives an ICMP echo request, it is bound to send back an ICMP echo reply. If there is any problem in the transit network, the ICMP will report that problem. Okay. Next is Internet Protocol version 4 IPv4. Here IPv4 is 32-bit addressing scheme. Okay, used as a TCP IP host addressing mechanism. IP addressing enables every host on the TCP IP network to be uniquely identifiable. IPv4 provides hierarchical addressing scheme which enables it to divide the network into sub-networks, each with well-defined number of hosts. IP addresses are divided into many categories: Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D and Class E. Okay, in Class A is uses first octet for network addresses and last 3 octets for host addressing. Okay, Class B is there It uses first two octets for network addresses and last two for host addressing. Clear? Next is class C. It uses first three octets for network addresses and last one for the host addressing. Then class D is there. Class D provides flat IP addressing scheme in contrast to hierarchical structure for about 3. Then class E is there. It used as experimental. Okay. IPv4 also has well-defined address spaces to be used as a private addresses not routable on internet, and the public addresses provided by ISPs and are routable on internet. Then through IP is not reliable one. It provides best effort delivery mechanism. Okay, the internet protocol version IPv6. Exhaustion of IPv4 addresses give birth to the next generation internet protocol version 6. IPv6 addresses its node with 128-bit wide address, providing plenty of address space for future to be used on entire planet or beyond. IPv6 has introduced anycast addressing but has removed the concept of broadcasting. Okay, the IPv6 enables devices to self-acquire an IPv6 addresses and communicate within that subnet. This auto configuration removes the dependability of dynamic host configuration protocol. DHCP is there, server is there. This way, even if the DHCP server on that subnet is down, the host can communicate with each other. Clear? Then IPv6 provides new features of IPv6 mobility. Mobile IPv6 equipped machines can roam around without the need of changing their IP addresses. IPv6 is still in transition phase and is expected to replace IPv4 completely in coming years. At present, there are few networks which are running on IPv6. There are some transition mechanisms available for IPv6 enable networks to speak and roam around different networks easily on IPv4. There are dual stack implementation, tunneling and NATPT are there. Here is the data link layer introduction. Next layer is there, data link layer introduction. Data link layer is a second layer of OSI layered model. This layer is one of the most complicated layer and has complex functionalities and liabilities. Data link layer hides the details of underlying hardware and represents itself to upper layer as a medium to communicate. The data link layer works between two hosts which are directly connected in some sense. These direct connections could be point to point or broadcast. Systems on the broadcast network are said to be on same link. The work of data link layer tends to get more complex when it is dealing with multiple hosts on single collision domain. Okay, the data link layer is responsible for converting data stream to single signal bit by bit and to send that over the underlying hardware. At the receiving end, data link layer pick up data from hardware which are in the form of electrical signals, assembles them in a recognizable frame format and hands over to the upper layer. Okay, the data link layer has two sub layers. First one is logical link control and second one is media access control. In logical link control is deal with the protocol, flow control and error control. Okay, and in media access control it deal with the actual control of media. Here is the functionality of data link layer. The data link layer does many tasks on behalf of upper layer. These are framing. First is framing. Data link layer takes packets from the network layer and encapsulates them into frame. Then it enables each frame bit by bit on the hardware. At receivers end, data link layer pick up signals from hardware and assembles into the frames. Okay, there is addressing. Data link layer provides the layer 2 hardware addressing mechanism. Hardware address is assumed to be unique on the link. It is included into hardware at the time of manufacturing. Okay, next is synchronization. When data frame are sent on the link, both machines must be synchronized in order to transfer to take place. Okay, then error control is there. Sometimes signals may have encountered problem in the transition and the bits are flipped. These errors are detected and attempt to recover the actual data bits. It also provides error reporting mechanism to the sender. Okay, next is flow control. Stations on the same link may have different speed or capacity. Data link layer ensures flow control that enables both machines to exchange data on the same speed. There is multi-access is there. When host on the shared link tries to transfer the data, it has a high probability of collision. Data link layer provide mechanism such as CSMA-CD to equip capability of accessing a shared media among multiple systems. Here is the error detection and correction. There are many reasons such as noise, crosstalk, etc., which may help data to get corrupted during transmission. The upper layer work on the same generalized view of network architecture and are not aware of actual hardware. Data processing, hence the upper layer expect error-free transmission between the systems. Most of the applications will not function expectedly if they receive erroneous data. Applications such as voice and video may not be that affected, and with some errors they may still function well. Here is the data link layer uses some error control mechanism to ensure that frames, data bit streams are transmitted with certain level of accuracy. But to understand how errors is controlled, it is essential to know what type of errors may occur. There are different types of errors. There, there may be three types of error: single bit error, multiple bit error. In single bit, send data 10110011, then receives the 01011011. Instead of 0, we receive the 1. If a frame in a frame there is only one bit anywhere through which is corrupt. In multiple bit errors, 10110011 is there. We receive 10100111 is there. In a frame is received with more than one bit is corrupted the state. Clear? Next is burst error. Here we send the signal and receive signal. There is a burst error. Frame contains more than one consecutive bits corrupted. Consecutive means in sequence 1, 2, 3, all the sequence is corrupted. Then it is called as a burst error. Okay. Error control mechanism may involve two possible ways: error detection and error correction. In error detection, okay, error in the receive frame are detected by means of parity check and cyclic redundancy check. In both cases, few extra bits are sent along with actual data to confirm that bits received at another other end are same as they were sent. If the counter check at receiver end fails, the bits are considered corrupted. Next is parity check. The one extra bit is sent along with the original bits to make number of ones either even in case of even parity or odd in case of odd parity. The sender, while creating a frame, counts the number of ones in it. For example, if even parity is used and number of ones is even, then one bit with value 0 is added. This way, number of ones remains even if the number of ones is odd. To make it even, a bit with value is added. 1001001 is there, then 1001001 even bit, even parity there is a 1. The receiver simply counts the number of ones in a frame. If the count of ones is even and even parity is used, the frame is considered to be not corrupted and is accepted. If the count of ones is odd and odd parity is used, the frame is still not corrupted. If a single bit flips in transit, the receiver can detect if by counting a number of ones, but when more than one bits are erroneous, then it is hard, okay, detect it by counting. If a single bit flip in transit, the receiver can detect it by counting the number of ones, but when more than the bits, the error number, then it is hard for the receiver to detect the error. Clear? Then CRC is used, cyclic redundancy check is there. CRC is a different approach to detect if the received frame contains valid data. This technique involves binary division of data bits being sent. The divisor is generated using the polynomial. The sender performs a division operation on the bit, right, being sent and calculates the remainder. Before sending the actual bit, the sender Add the reminder at the end of the actual data bits plus the reminder is called a code word. The sender transmits data into as a code word. See here, divisor is there, data bits are there, right? What happened? We got the 10 CRC is there, right? 10 is there. If their data bits plus CRC is added, no error is there. Observe carefully, you will get the idea. At the other end, the receiver performs division operation on a code word using the same CRC divisor. If the reminder contains all 0, the data bits are accepted. Otherwise, it is considered as there are some data corruption occurred in transit. Clear? Here is the error correction. In the digital world, error correction can be done in two ways: backward error correction and forward error correction. Backward error correction, when the receiver detects an error in the data received, if request back the sender to retransmit the data unit, right? Then forward error correction, when the receiver detects some errors in the data received, it executes error correction code which help it to auto recover and to correct some kinds of error. The first one, backward error correction, is simple and can only be efficiently used where retransmitting is not expensive. For example, fiber optics, but in case of wireless transmission, retransmitting may cost too much. In the latter case, forward error correction is used to correct the error in data frame. The receiver must know exactly which bit in the frame is corrupted. To locate the bit in error, redundant bits are used as a parity bit for error detection. For example, we take ASCII words 7 bits data, then there could be 8 kind of information we need. First 7 bits to tell us which bit is error and one more bit to tell that there is no error. For m bit data bits, R redundant bits are used. R bits can be provide two or combinations of information. In m plus R bit code word, there is possibility that the R bit themselves may get corrupted. So the number of R bits used must inform about m plus R bit locations plus no error information, that is m plus R plus 1. Here is 2 raised to R is greater than or equal to m plus R plus 1. Right? Here is the data link control and protocol. The data link layer is responsible for implementation of point to point flow and error control mechanisms. Flow control is there when a data frame layer 2 data is sent from one host to another over a single medium. It is required that the sender and receiver should work at the same speed. This is sender send at a speed on which the receiver can process and accept the data. When if the speed hardware software of the sender or receiver differs, if sender is sending too fast, the receiver may be overloaded and data may be lost. Two types of mechanisms can be displayed to control the flow. Stop and wait. This flow control mechanism forces the sender after transmitting a data frame to stop and wait until the acknowledgement of the data frame sent is received. Okay, here sliding window is there. Sender and receiver, frame 0 acknowledgement 0, frame 1 acknowledgement 1. Sender and receiver, first sender send the frame to receiver, receiver send acknowledgement to the sender, the sender also send the frame 1 to receiver and receiver send acknowledgement to the sender, right? Then sliding window. In this window, in this flow control mechanism, both sender and receiver agree on the number of data frames after which the acknowledgement should be sent. As we learn, stop and wait flow control mechanism waste resources. This protocol tries to make use of underlying resources as much as possible. Here is the error control. When the data frame is transmitted, there is a probability that data frame may be lost in the transit or it is received corrupted. In both cases, the receiver does not receive the correct data frame and sender does not know anything about any loss. In such case, both sender and receiver are equipped with some protocol which help them to detect transit errors such as loss of data frame. Hence, there either the sender retransmit the data frame or the receiver may request to resend the previous data frame. Here is the requirement for error control mechanism. There is error detection. The sender and receiver, either both or any, must ascertain that there is some error in the transit. Positive acknowledgement. When the receiver receives a correct frame, it should acknowledge it. Negative acknowledgement is there when a receiver receives a damaged frame or a duplicate frame. It sends an acknowledgement back to the sender and the sender must retransmit the correct frame. Retransmission is there. The sender maintain a clock and set a timeout period. If an acknowledgement of data frame previously transmitted does not arrive before the timeout, the sender retransmit the frame thinking that the frame or its acknowledgement is lost in transit. Okay, there are three types of technique available which data link layer may deploy to control the error by automatic repeat request. Here stop and wait is there. Sender send the frame, receiver send the acknowledgement. There is a timeout right between them, frame out and frame acknowledgement 0. When sender send the frame 1, it wait until it got the acknowledgement 1 from the receiver. If sender don't got the acknowledgement, then it repeat that frame again to the receiver. Clear? When acknowledgement got from the receiver, then and then new frame is released by the sender. Okay, The following transaction may occur in stop and wait ARQ. First is the sender maintain a timeout counter. Second is when a frame is sent, the sender starts the timeout counter. Third is if acknowledgement of frame come in time, the sender transmit the next frame in queue. Next is if acknowledgement does not come in time, the sender assumes that either the frame or its acknowledgement is lost in transit. Sender retransmit the frame and start the timeout counter. If a negative acknowledgement is received, the sender retransmit the frame again. This is the stop and wait concept. आज काय go back and ARQ. Here stop and wait ARQ mechanism does not utilize the resources at their best. Then when the acknowledgement is received, the sender side idle and does not nothing. Then the go back and ARQ method, both sender and receiver maintain a window. See this diagram, what happened when sender 0 send the frame 0, okay, simultaneously it sending frame 1 by 1, 0, 1, 2, okay, and timer is goes on. When receiver send the acknowledgement to the sender, that time close timer for 0, okay, and send third packet. Means at a time 0, 1, 2, these 3 packets are sent, and frame sender wait for the acknowledgement from the frame receiver for the frame 0. After closing the timer, send the next frame. Clear? And if sender does not got the acknowledgement for second, then he will wait for the acknowledgement. After that, next frames are sent. If acknowledgement is not sent, then frame is sent back again. Like stop and wait, there is a acknowledgement and frame concept is there, but in stop and wait, frame sender is wait for the acknowledgement until it cannot produce another one. In go back and sender send the 3 frames simultaneously 1 by 1, 0, 1, 2, and wait for the acknowledgement. If got the acknowledgement for 0th frame, then he will continue to transfer the files. Otherwise, he will stop the operation. Here, the sending window size enables the sender to send multiple frames without receiving the acknowledgement of the previous one. The receiving window enables the receiver to receive multiple frames of acknowledgement them, and receiver keep track of incoming frames sequence number. When the sender send all the frames in window, it check up to what sequence number it has received and positive acknowledgement. If all frames are positively acknowledged, the sender send next set to frames. If the sender find that it has received not acknowledgement or has not received any acknowledgement from the particular frame, it retransmit all the frames, after which it does not receive any positive acknowledgement. Here is the selective repeat acknowledgement ARQ. In go back N, ARQ, it is assumed that the receiver does not have any buffer space for its window size and has to process each frame as it comes. This enforces the sender to retransmit all the frames which are not acknowledged. Here, same concept is there. Sender send the frame to the receiver simultaneously frame 0, 1, 2 like go and back ARQ. But here difference is that if acknowledge is not getting, then that particular frame is sent after some time. When timeout for the second frame is not getting. In selective repeat ARQ, the receiver while keeping track of sequence numbers, buffer and frames in memory and send an acknowledgement for only frame which is missing or damaged. There is two possibility. If the frame is missing, otherwise it is damaged. For both the reasons you have to resend the frame again. The sender in this case send only the packets for which an acknowledgement is received. Here is the physical layer introduction. Physical layer introduction we will start with the next lecture because it's new topic, right? Because we don't have that much of time, only few minutes are remaining in this lecture, so we will recall these concepts again, and next lecture we will start with the physical layer. In today's lecture we have seen packet fragmentation, network layer protocol, and next layer we cover today is data link layer. Before that we studied the internet control protocol ICMP, then internet protocol version 4 IPv4, next is IPv4 6. In IPv4 we was go through the different types, and data link layer introduction is covered in this lecture. Okay, their addressing, synchronization, error control, flow control, error detection and correction part is covered. Types of error like single bit error, multiple bit errors, burst error is there. In error detection there is a parity check point we covered. Cyclic redundancy check is there. Error correction, there is a backward error correction and forward error correction is there, right? Data link control and protocols are there. Flow control is there, right? Sliding window error control is there. After that stop and wait ARQ we have covered in this lecture. Go back in ARQ, and last one is selective repeat ARQ. These are these topics we covered today. In next lecture we will start with the physical layer introduction. Thank you for today's lecture.